I did critical edition of Atmajnana Upadesha Vidhi, commentary on Atmajnana Upadesha Vidhi.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Upadesha Vidhi was composed by Adi Shankara, and 3 rishis did commentary on that, which was never published. It was in the form of palm leaf. I went through those palm leaves and got a number of manuscripts from all over India and also abroad, and critically edited and brought out this commentary. This commentary by Purnanubhava, commentary by Anandagiri, and the third one, commentary by Anantarama Bhagavat. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Atra miltebhyaha sarvebhyaha mama namaskaraha. Swami Shrihariprasad Mahodayaya mama vishishtaha namaskaraha. Adya aham Bhagavan Balakrishna prati yatamati kinchit samsheptaha vaktum prayaktosmi. Shri Sathguru Swami Gnanananda Sarasvatyaha Padaravinde Shraddhanjali Rupena Sa Bhakti Kriti Riyam Maya Samarpyate. Bharatiyaha Samskrityaha Shri Krishna Eka Mahapurushaha Yadukule Jataha Saha Vasudeva Devakyo Putraha Vasudevasya Putraha Ataha Ayam Vasudevaha iti Katyate. Devakyaha ayam ashtamaha putraha asit. Yada ayam Bhadrapada Krishna pakshe ashtamyam kitau Mathurayam karagrehe jataha tada tasya pita Vasudevaha ratro eva yenam adaya Yamuna nadim uttirya Gokulam gatavan tada eva Gokule Nandasya Dharmapatni Yashoda Kanyam Shishum Ajinanat Vasudevaha Swam Putram Nandaya Dattva Tasya Kanyam Shishum Grihitva Karagraham Pratyagachat Gokule Yashoda Nandau Sri Krishnam Atis Nehena Aparayatam Sri Krishnaya Dugdam Dadi Navanitamcha Ativa Rochatesma Saha Balaha Krishna Ati Parakramasali Asit Yamunayaha Jalam Kaliya Namna Krishna Sarpena Vishayuktam Kritam Tam Hatva Krishnena Yamunayaha Jalam Nirmalam Kritam Tasya Parakramasya Adbhutani Karyani Prasiddhani Tena Ekasyam Angulya Eva Govardhana Parvataha Dritaha Gokula Janaha Toya Dara Nipatat Rakshitaha Cha Saha Swam Dushtam Matulam Kamsam Hatva Swapitarau Karagrahat Amunchat Mahabharate Puranenacha Yetat Katitam Puranecha Yetat Katitam Yat Sri Krishna Shaktishali Yodha Asit Saha Rana Nitignaha Chasana Kusalaha Vivida Kalavignaha Cha Asit Kaurava Pandavayoho Madhye Anena Pandavanam Netritvam Kritam Ataha Yuddhe Pandavanam Vijayaha Abhavat Yuddha Samye Nishada Prapte Arjune Sri Krishna Karma Yogam Upadishat Karmanyeva Adhikaraste Mahapalesha Kadachana Swadharme Nidanam Shreyaha Paradharmo Bhayavaha Hittam Sri Krishnena Arjunaha Upadishtaha Yuddhaya Sajjaha Babuva Sri Krishna Arjunasya Ratasya Saratihi Abhavate Sri Krishnasya Ranabhumo Upadeshaha Bhagavad Gita Namna Grantharupena Prasiddhaha Nunam Gita Bharatiyanam Amulyaha Nidhihi Vartate Adyatve api Janaha Gitopadesham Anusaranti Sri Krishna Yuddha Kala Pravinaha Sarvaguna Sampannaha Sarvesham Adarsaha Asti. Now I am going to talk about the childhood episodes of Krishna, Balakrishna. These are all short stories. Already the previous speakers have mentioned about them. But wherever there is a story, I am going to bring a corresponding sloka which completes the story as such. Instead of me doing the complete story, that is the way I have treated this in this paper. For example, I have taken episodes from Krishna Karnamritam, Govindashtakam, Narayaniyam, Yadava Abhyudayam, Swami Desiccant's work, Yadava Abhyudayam, Gopali Vamshati, again Swami Desiccant's work, and Bhagavatam. Now, why I have mentioned these stories clearly is this is because my target audience is children and grandchildren. Nowadays, children don't know much about our Hindu mythology. For example, we are talking about Krishna stealing butter. My grandson in USA does not know how butter comes, from where butter comes. He does not know about the milk. The other day, when I went to USA, I took him to the departmental stores and asked him from where this milk comes. He says, milk comes from carton, paper carton. I said, what is this milk? He says, it is cow's juice. That is the kind of knowledge people have about butter, milk, dahi, and so on. Therefore, it is for us elders to teach the children through these stories the facts behind our mythology, Krishna's avatars, the episodes, and his pranks and mischievous deeds. All these things in the form of stories, we have to bring it to the notice of our children. And that's why in this paper, I have mostly dealt with these episodes in the story form with corresponding quotations from the famous works. So let me begin. Lord Krishna is considered to be the most colorful character in Hindu mythology. His mischievous nature, his love for his friends, and stories of his childhood are narrated in every household. Kids love him, and grown-up people adore him in whatever form he is worshipped, be it infant Krishna eating butter, or the young boy playing on the flute, or with Radha in love of his life, or in his larger-than-life avatar giving a discourse to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Birth of Krishna. Krishna was born to Devaki and Vasudeva in prison. King Kamsa was a tyrant and an evil ruler. It was prophesied that Kamsa would be killed by the eighth child born to his sister Devaki and her husband Vasudeva. Therefore, to escape death at the hands of nephew, Kamsa imprisoned both of them and ensured that each of their newborns were eliminated as soon as they are born. Lord Vishnu himself took avatar in the form of Krishna and was born as the eighth child to Devaki and Vasudeva at midnight in the prison. That night, when Krishna was born, a divine voice directed Vasudeva to smuggle the newborn baby out of the prison and to take to his friend Nanda's house in Gokula and exchange him with his friend's newborn girl child. Worried Devaki and Vasudeva were assured that his son will have safe and sure upbringing in Gokula. Vasudeva followed the instructions. By divine intervention, his binding handcuffs and chains were opened. All the prison guards were asleep. The prison gates were open. And in pouring rain, Adishesha himself provided cover for the child. River Yamuna gave way and Vasudeva safely delivered the child in Nanda's house and brought Nanda's newborn girl child back to the prison without anybody's knowledge. Kamsa, on learning the birth of the eighth child through prison officials, comes to the prison and finds the eighth child is a girl. In spite of his sister's pleading, he attempted to kill the girl child, but could not. The child slipped out of his hand and took the form of goddess Durga and warned him that the boy who will kill him is safe and out of reach. Kamsa was terrified and left worried. Narayana Bhattatri in Narayaniyam describes, Sage Garga gave the name Krishna to the child to declare that his real nature is existence bliss. Krish is existence and Na is bliss. The union of these is Krishna, the Supreme Brahman. In Sloka 38.3, he addresses the Lord thus, You are the remover of the sorrow of the three worlds, appeared on this earth at midnight. Though in appearance a child, you did have all the divine majesties, and you did shine in the lying chamber, Suti Gehe, with a crown, bracelets, shoulder ornaments, and necklaces, spreading luster all around, with your conch, discus, lotus, and mace, and with a complexion which was dark blue like a cloud. In Bhagavatam it says, Devakyam, Devarupinyam, Vishnus, Sarva Guhasaya, Avirasit, Yada Prachyam, Dishi, Induriva Pushkalaha. Lord Vishnu, residing in the heart of all, appeared in the divine Devaki like a full moon in the eastern quarter. Now, I'm going to give the details of how Leela Sukha describes the beauty of the child, Krishna. Leela Sukha gives an elaborate and vivid description of Krishna as a child in his popular text, Krishna Karnamrtam, in verse form, as addressed to the Lord. He is addressing to the Lord. Due to time and space limitations, only a few are mentioned here, though every verse is a gem. Our eyes are drawn towards the beauty of your childhood form, the locks adorned with peacock feathers, worshipped by the lotus-eyed gopis, and the face which conquers both moon and lotus. Will I see young Krishna, blue like sapphire, playing wonderful music in his flute, sweet lips like bimba fruit, with attractive smile, with his nectar-like speech, spreading coolness all around, and with his cool glances from lotus-like wide eyes. When I am going to see the wide chest, eyes like blue lotus, soft smile, charming speech, lips like bimba fruit, and the sweet music from his flute, the treasure house of elegance and beauty. Varamimam Upadesha Madriyadvam Nigamavaneshu Nitanta Charakinnaha Vichinita Bhavaneshu Valavinam Upanishad Artham Ulukale Nibuddham. Beautiful sloka. Those who are tired after wandering in the forest of Vedas, listen to this advice. Look for the import of the Upanishad in the houses of Gopis, where it is bound to the marked. Ratnasale Janucharaha Kumaraha Sankrantamakmiyam Mukaravindam Adatulabaha Tadalaba Kedate Vilokya Datri Vadanam Ruroda. The child Krishna, crawling on the gem-studded floor, saw his face reflected in the shining floor and tried to grab it. But unable to do so, looked at the face of his nanny and cried. Krishna is crawling in the courtyard. The bells on his waist and anklets on his feet are sounding sweetly. There are, Leela Sukha says, there are other incarnations of the lotus-eyed Lord, all being very auspicious. But only Krishna Avatara has been able to give liberation to cows, to cowherds, and to cowherd maidens. I meditate in my mind the child Mukunda, who is crawling on his knees, left hand on the floor, and looking at the ball of butter on the right hand. O Lord, slayer of Mura, whatever joy you experience on being offered food by Vidura, by the Gopas at the worship of Govardhana mountain, the puffed rice given by Kuchela, or on being breastfed by Yashoda, or when enjoyed the hospitality of Bharadwaja and Sabri, and in the lips of Gopis, or in the food offered by Yajnapatnis, show the same love in accepting this offering of Krishna Karnamrtam. Thus, Leela Sukha ends his great work dedicated to Krishna Paramatma. Narayana Bhattatri also dwells at length in describing the beauty of the child Krishna in many verses of Narayanam. Smiling very gently, revealing your pearl-like teeth, with hair streaming all over the face, the soles of whose lotus feet were beautiful to behold. The bangles which you are wearing in the arms had slipped down to the wrist. You, along with Balarama, captivated intensely the minds of the people who were looking on. O Lord, the music which came out of your flute could make even divine damsels feel the effect of Cupid's arrows. It could make even animals and birds stand motionless and could even melt stones. Swami Desiccant in his text Gopala Vimsati describes the beauty of Krishna, the child, in great detail. He says, one should enjoy the unchanging and incomparable beauty of Gopala with unblinking eyes. He is wearing peacock feathers in his dark tresses. When we think of his childhood pranks in Gopalan and Vrindavan and his blemishless beauty, our minds fall in intense love with him. Our senses are overpowered. He plays on his flute and creates delightful music. He casts his most merciful glances on the Gopis, and they are captivated by his music and glances. His cool and welcoming eyes resemble a pair of just blossomed lotuses in the river of his mercy. Now, Putanavada. Kamsa, the evil uncle of Krishna, wanted to kill him on the day of his birthday itself. But by divine intervention and with the help of his father, Krishna fooled him. Later, Kamsa came to know that Krishna was somewhere else in his kingdom. He ordered Putana, an evil demoness, to kill all the infants in his kingdom. On this, the ruthless demoness killed many newborn babies. She soon came to Gokula, learning about the miraculous baby, and wanted to eliminate him as well. She took the form of a beautiful woman. She poisoned her breast with venom and reached Krishna's place on the pretext of feeding the child. On her request, Krishna's foster mother agreed. Putana took the beautiful looking baby from the cradle, went to the backyard, and started feeding him. She thought that the baby will be lifeless very soon. Instead, she suddenly felt that the child is sucking the life out of her. She wanted to get away, but the child held her tightly. She flew into the air and took the form of a fierce demoness to frighten the baby, but all in vain. Krishna would not let her go. Eventually, the child sucked the life out of the demoness, and the huge body of the demoness fell on the ground with great noise. The people were astonished to see the child was safe and playing happily on the dead body of Putana. Swami Desiccant, in his work Gopala Vimshati, Shloka 3, describes Putana Vada thus. Parama Purusha, with the scent of Vedas in his breath, took the form of a child born in a cowherd family. As he feigned fear at the sight of approaching evil Putana, he pretended. He alternatively cried and smiled. When he cried, his sweet breath carried the fragrance of the Vedas. His smile in between the crying was over the thought of what he planned to do next with the deceitful Putana. He not only helped himself with the poisonous milk, but also sucked her life at one swoop and blessed her this way. This is no ordinary child. Narayana Bhattatri devotes more than 10 slokas to describe the Putana Vada. Krishna and the fruit seller. This is a very interesting incident. Once when Krishna was still a toddler, a fruit seller with a lot of juicy mango fruits came to their house. Krishna's father purchased a basket full of mangoes from the fruit seller in exchange for a basket of grains as barter. Krishna saw that he can also get a few fruits from the seller by giving a handful of grains. He brought the grains with his small hand. Krishna was feeling disappointed since some grains fell off. The fruit selling woman saw his face and his hand. She was mesmerized by Krishna's dark eyes, innocent smile, and long dark locks adorned with peacock feather. She saw the sign of conch and disgust in his small palms. She, for a moment, forgot everything around her, gazing at the child. Krishna asked, "Can you give me some mangoes for these grains?" She gladly took the few grains and filled his hand with juicy, golden, ripe mangoes. The child was very happy and delighted. Suddenly, everybody was astonished to see that the fruit seller's basket was full of precious gems. Krishna was smiling. The fruit seller, a devoted woman, realized that she is before not an ordinary mortal, but before God Himself. Swami Desiccant describes this incident lucidly in his Yadava Abhyudayam. Abhuriyat swadu palarpanena kridashichoho hastapushtam kirati ratnaihi tada kaustuba nirvisheshaihi apuritam tat pala bandam asit. The meaning I've already told. Krishna caught eating earth. Once Krishna as a child was tagging along with the elder brother Balarama and other friends collecting fruits in the courtyard. Unable to reach the fruits like others, Krishna got vexed and picked some earth and put it in his mouth. The boys noticed this and ran to Yashoda and reported. Yashoda immediately rushed to Krishna and asked him whether he had put earth in his mouth. Yashoda got angry and chided him to open the mouth and show. Finally, he opened his mouth wide open for her to peer. Then the awe-stricken Yashoda saw in his open mouth the entire universe, mountains, rivers, oceans, Gokula, and herself too. She was dumbstruck and realized that this child is an incarnation of Lord Himself. Adi Shankara described this verse in Govindashtamam. Mritsna matsiheti Yashoda tadana shaishava samtarasam vyadita vaktra alokita loka loka chaturdasa lokalim lokatraya pura moola stambam lokaloka manalokam lokesham paramesham pranamata govindam paramanandam. When so many edibles are in the house, why are you eating lump of earth, Krishna? So saying, when beaten by Yashoda, he exhibits fear as normal to children. In the opened mouth, he shows the 7 worlds, starting with Atala, Vitala, etc. Totaling a row of, she opened his mouth, shows the 7 worlds starting from earth, as well as the unseen 7 worlds, starting with Atala, Vitala, etc., totaling a row of 14 worlds. He is the main support and sustainer of the 3 worlds, Swarga, Prithvi, Patala. He manifests the entire universe, but he is not manifested by any other entity. He actuates wind, rain, etc., and is the controller of all. Worship that Govinda of the above nature. In Narayaniam, this is described in Narayana Bhattatri thus. Kalasambadi Sayanam Punaha Para Vaikunta Padadi Vasinam Sapurascha Nijarbhadatmakam Katida Swam Na Dadarsha Sa Mukhe. In your mouth, Yashoda further saw you reclining on the milky ocean as residing in your supreme abode, Vaikunta, and also as her own child in front of her and in numerous different forms. Ulukula Bandhana Varnanam, Yamularjana Bhanjana Varnanam. This is binding of Krishna to a martyr, uprooting of the pair of Arjuna trees. Krishna, the Supreme Lord, was afraid of his angry mother. She was angry because Krishna had broken the curd pot with a stick. Krishna, why he broke the pot? Krishna broke the pot in anger because his drinking milk from his mother was interrupted by her due to some reason. After breaking the curd pot, he stole the butter from it, and since his mother was away in the kitchen. Trasyan Mukundo Navanita Chauryat Nirbhugna Gatro Nibridam Sayanaha Nijani Nishabda Dasham Yayache Yad Badvanjali Bala Vibhushanani. His mother wanted to tie him to a wooden mortar so that he cannot move around and indulge in stealing butter and other childish pranks. But the rope used by her was short. She joined another piece of rope and tried. Even then, it was found short to her surprise. She got tired by these attempts. No attempt of extra rope helped her to climb down. Krishna, noticing his mother's plight and distress, allowed himself to be tied to the martyr by his power of diminution. Swami Desiccant continues in this Yadava Abhidayam, this incident. I meditate on the child Gopala who dragged the big martyr to which he was tied by his angry mother Yashoda. She wanted to punish him for stealing butter and hence bound him to prevent him from moving around. After she went away, after tying him, the child pulled the martyr with him to the garden. He was joyous having duped his mother. He dragged some distance and went in between two trees. Krishna pulled and brought down the two trees. The big martyr got stuck between the trees. From the fallen trees, two sons of Kubera appeared. They had been standing there as trees for a long time and got released from a curse and regained their original forms. They fell at the feet of the Lord, worshipped, and left. The whole community rushed to the site, hearing the thundering noise, and were relieved to see the child was unhurt. Yashoda cursed herself for tying you to the martyr. Swami Desiccant in Gopala Vimshati reflects on the child who dragged the heavy martyr. He says, I do not want to dwell on this incident much, and I want to be brief since it is distressing to me. Blessing the wives of Brahmanas conducting sacrifice. Already this incident has been told by the earlier speaker, but still I will mention because there are some slokas coming. After roaming and playing in the forest, the cowherd boys got tired and felt hungry. They approached Krishna. Krishna told them to go to the nearby Yagashala where some Brahmins are conducting sacrifice and where certain Brahmanas are conducting sacrifice and asked them for food, mentioning Krishna's name. Accordingly, the boys went to the Brahmanas and requested for food, but the Brahmanas refused to give any food. They could not realize that the Lord to whom all the offerings in the yagas go has himself sent the cowherd boys for food for himself and the boys. The disappointed boys went back to Krishna and told him. Then Krishna told them to approach the wives of the Brahmanas, mentioning that Krishna sent us for food. The boys did so. The moment the wives heard Krishna's name and his wish, they immediately came to Krishna with 4 kinds of food, water, etc., to feed Krishna and his cowherd boys. Their husbands obstructed and objected, but they did not pay any heed to their husbands, to their words. They were so much deeply devoted to Krishna that they were delighted to feed him and his followers to his satisfaction and were overwhelmed at the thought that Krishna himself has become their guest unexpectedly. Such was their bhakti. This incident is described in Narayaniyam. Grihita namni tvayi sambrama kulaha chaturvidam bhojya rasam pragrhyataha chiram drita tvat pravilokana agraha swakair niruddha api turna mayuhu. Swakair niruddha naga, even though their husbands obstructed, they came. I have already mentioned the meaning earlier. Krishna tames the serpent Kaliya. Kaliya was a dreaded, many-hooded, poisonous serpent who used to live on the banks of Ramanaka Dvipa. He was driven away from there due to the fear from Garuda, the Vahana of Lord Vishnu. Many years ago, Garuda had been cursed by a sage that he would die in Vrindavan. Since Kaliya knew this fact, he comfortably shifted to Vrindavan along with his family. Due to his staying there, the waters of Yamuna became poisonous. One day, Krishna and his friends were playing ball game. Maybe they were playing cricket, ball game near this place. And accidentally, the ball fell into the poisonous waters of the river. For recovering the ball, Krishna jumped into the river. The other boys prevented him, but he did not listen. Meanwhile, in the water, Kaliya, without knowing who Krishna is, attacked him and attempted to bite Krishna. The serpent wrapped Krishna and pulled him deeper into the water. But Krishna grew in size, grabbed the tail, and brought him to the water surface. Krishna stood on the hoods of the serpent and danced, holding the tail, increasing his weight enormously. The villagers were astonished at Krishna's feat and at the same time terrified. To infuse confidence among his friends, Krishna played on his flute also simultaneously to their delight. Unable to bear the forceful stamping of the wood, the injured serpent vomited blood, became tired, and begged Krishna for his life. He realized that the boy on his hood is none other than Lord Vishnu himself. Meanwhile, the serpent's wives came and begged Krishna to spare him and forgive him. Krishna showed mercy and ordered him to go back to Ramanaka Dvipa with family and don't come back to Vrindavan area again. Narayana Bhattacharya describes Kaliya Mardana lucidly in poetic style. When Krishna claimed the hoods of Kaliya and danced with his slender feet, the gentle tinkling of the anklets was in tune with the sweet sound of bangles in his arms. He danced for a long time with his earrings quivering in a charming manner, while in the sky the celestial damsels sang to the accompaniment of the sweet sound of the beating of the drums by the gods. Ruchira Kampita Kundala Mandalaha Shuchira Misha Nartita Pannage Amara Tadita Dundibi Sundaram Vieti Gayati Daivata Yavate. Leela Sukha described the same in Krishna Karnamridam this way in a rhythmic style. The earlier speaker mentioned this sloka. I am repeating it again. Madamaya Duragam Yamunam Avatirya Viryashali Yaha Mama Ratiraskriti Samana Parasya Kriyat Krishna. May Krishna, who entered in the waters of Yamuna and tamed the arrogant serpent and who is intent on redressing the insult to the Devas, fulfill my wish. Swami Desiccant in Yadav Abdayam imagines that during the dance on the hoods of Kaliya by Krishna, the serpent's hoods were looking like gem-studded footrest for the Lord with the red eyes of the serpent on the black hoods. Subduing the 5-hooded serpent is comparable to subduing the 5 indriyas of his devotees, and extricating the poison is comparable to freeing them from desires. Lifting of the Govardhana mountain, Govardhanodharanam. Every year, people of Gokala used to worship Indra in recognition of his blessings by providing timely and adequate rain for the benefit of the people, cattle, etc. During that year also, when Krishna was there, the villagers wanted to celebrate Indra festival. Krishna came to know this and advised the villagers that actually the nearby Govardhana mountain should be worshipped, not Indra. Mountain is only responsible for giving you water, rains, etc., etc. Nanda and the villagers reluctantly agreed to Krishna's suggestion because they were afraid that Indra may harm them if he is not worshipped. Ultimately, they were convinced by Krishna and started making preparations to worship the mountain with flowers, decorations, and other festivities. Meanwhile, arrogant and the power-drunk Indra, without understanding that Krishna is the Lord himself, got furious over the change and wanted to punish the people. He ordered the rain god to pour incessantly and flood the villages. Rain god and other gods knew that Indra's decision is wrong, but had to obey him. There was deluge everywhere, and people ran to Krishna for help. Krishna at once knew that this is the mischief of Indra. He told the villagers to gather near the Govardhana mountain with their families, belongings, and cattle. Then, to everyone's astonishment, Krishna lifted the mighty mountain with one hand and thus provided an umbrella and told the villagers to take shelter under the mountain. To infuse confidence among the perplexed people, he played on his flute with the other hand, which was enjoyed by all. This continued for a week. Then Indra realized his mistake and surrendered to the Lord, begging for mercy. For the Lord, who long ago lifted the earth itself, what effort is needed to lift a mountain? In Narayaniam, this feat of Krishna is discussed in detail. Devas praised and worshipped Lord Krishna for his act of mercy and timely protection of his devotees. Adi Shankara in Govindashtaram describes Gopalam, Prabhulila Vigraha Gopalam, Kula Gopalam, Gopi Kelana Govardhana Dhriti Leela Lalita Gopalam, Gopir Nigadita Govinda Sputanamanam, Bahunamanam, Godi Gochara Duram, Pranamata Govindam, Paramanandam. He who looks after the cows as a shepherd boy, he who has taken a human form out of his sweet will, he who protects the body and its organs, he who went to the forest with the gopis for sportful activities, and who protected all beings there from torrential rains, with Govardhana hill lifted playfully like an umbrella, he who is extolled by the Vedas and who is praised by the name Govinda and by countless other names, and who is beyond speech, mind, and sense organs, worship that Govinda of such a nature and who is embodiment of bliss. Swami Desiccant explains this with the flight of his imagination in a different manner in Sloka 7.48 of Yadava Vidayam. Sa leelaya merumiva dvitiyam govardhanam gopakula pradipaha nava prarudam nihiteka hastaha nago nalastamba mivojjahara. Sri Krishna, the illuminator of the dynasty of cowherds, sportively lifted the mountains Govardhana, which was like another Meru Parvata, with one hand, as easily as an elephant lifts up a newly grown clump of grass. In a later vein, Swami Desiccant says that the cowherd boys like the torrential rains to continue, since they could stay comfortably in the nice caves of the mountain like holiday resorts. The gopis, on the other hand, wish that the rains continue so that they can enjoy the company of Krishna and his melodious music on the flute. In Sloka 7.96, Swami Desiccant says, addressing the Lord, though you appear as a cowboy, you are from the most extraordinary exalted place, Vaikuntha. None other than you can or is capable of protecting the three worlds. In Bhagavatam, it is explained that Sri Krishna lifted the Govardhana mountain playfully with one hand, like a boy does with an umbrella. Can I take another 10 minutes, please?
Yes, sir. You can.
I'll finish in 7 or 8 minutes because I want to complete with Rasa Krida.
Okay.
Rasa Krida. Krishna started playing on the flute as though he wanted to convey his love to the gopis. His appearance was like a moon which never waxes or wanes, and as though the god of love has given up his arrows of flowers and taken up flute instead. The notes emanating from the flute were like arrows of Cupid to the gopis. All the gopis came and surrounded Krishna. Actually, the gopis were supposed to be celestial damsels who had taken incarnation as gopis, while the Lord put on the costume of cowherd. Krishna was not born to Devaki due to his past karmas. Same way, the Janma of the celestial damsels as gopis was the result of their devotion and worship. In Bhagavata Purana, sage Shuka tells Parikshit that Krishna played with the gopis as a child plays with its own reflection. The Lord was residing in the hearts of the gopis and also everyone, everywhere. This play of Krishna with gopis continued for some time. After a few days of Krishna mixing with them freely, the gopis were overwhelmed with pride that Krishna finds them attractive, etc., etc. Krishna, who came to understand this pride of the gopis, wanted to eradicate that pride. He suddenly disappeared from their midst. Unable to see him for a long time, the gopis became miserable. They began singing on his gunas and kriyas. This is described in the famous Gopika Gita. The shabdas of their song reverberated in the forest. The words of their songs, steeped in rasanubhava, were in reality the words of the Upanishad, says Desiccant. For the perfect devotee, there is no greater sorrow than forgetting the Lord even for a moment. It is said in Narada Bhakti Sutra that the Gopis were such perfect devotees. They did recognize Krishna as Supreme Lord, and hence their attachment to him was beyond ordinary mortals' behavior. Attachment to anyone or anything other than God causes bondage. Attachment to God leads to liberation. The attachment of the Gopis to Krishna was Krishna's blessings. The idea is that we should live according to Krishna's advice and we should not try to do what he did. He, being Supreme Lord himself, his actions cannot be judged or understood on the basis of normal human standards. Being totally free from the slightest trace of egocentric desires, his actions are blemishless. Thus, the Gopis, who were distressed, sang his praises for long. Finally, the merciful God appeared before them, pleased with their intense devotion, lamentations, and songs on his glories. The Gopis were delighted. Then starts the rasa, the dance of Krishna and Gopis. Krishna joined hands with all of them, taking many forms, alternatively dancing. Leela Sukha in Krishna Karnamrtam describes Rasa Krida in 8 slokas. I will mention only one or two. Anganam antare madavo madavam cha antarena angana ittam akalpite mandale madhyagaha sanjagau venuna devaki nandanaha. This was mentioned by the earlier speaker also. The circle of rasa dance by its fast movement looked like a wheel with no space in between. There were showers of flowers from heaven and sound of musical instruments from heaven. The celestial damsels also danced, seeing Rasa Krida of Krishna. Narayana Bhattacharya describes Rasa Krida in Narayanam beautifully. Kesha Pasha Drita Pinchika Vidati Sanchalan Magara Kundalam Hara Jala Vanamalika Kalita Angaraga Gana Saurabham Pita Chela Drita Kanchi Kanchitam Udanchat Amshu Maninu Puram Rasa Keli Paribhushitam Tavahi Rupamisha Kalayamahe. O Lord, we meditate on your well-known form, specially decorated for the Rasa dance, your beautiful locks of hair adorned with a row of peacock feathers, with dangling fish-shaped earrings, adorned beautifully with necklaces and garland of flowers, with strong fragrance of sandalwood paste and other perfumes, wearing a golden girdle on your yellow silk garment, and with gem-studded anklets from which bright rays of light flashed forth. In that dance, the Gopis sang in a loud voice, and each one trying to excel in a spirit of competition. The necklaces and the ornaments made of gems worn by them moved away from their own places because of their graceful movements. Gods from heaven, with their eyes wide open and in extreme joy, rained down flowers. They, along with their women, remained entranced as if they had completely merged with you, the pure consciousness. You indeed make the Gopis experience indescribable bliss, which is attainable only by yogis. This created, even in Brahma, Shiva, and others, respect for the Gopis, the mere cowherd women. Adi Shankara in Govindashtamam says, Brindavana Bhuvi Brindaraka Gana Brindaradita Vandeham Kundabamala Mandasmera Sudanandam Sukridanandam Vandya Shesha Mahamuni Manasa Vandya Ananda Padadvandam Vandya Shesha Gunabdim Pranamata Paramanandam. In Brindavan, where Rasa Krida was in progress, all devas prized that great event. He who is attractive like a kunda flower with mesmerizing smile, both together was like nectar in providing the bliss, which bliss is experienced by liberated souls. Worship the Govinda of such a nature. He who is worshipped by all great sages, including Narada, he whose blissful feet are worshipped in the heart of those sages, and he who is devotion of all auspicious qualities, praised by all, worship the Lord Govinda of such a nature, the blissful. Rasa Krida signifies the jivas enjoying the bliss with the Lord. The sages see the leela of the Lord in the world where all the jivas around him holding his hand. So the whole world is Vrindavan and the leela of the Lord is creation, sustenance and annihilation. And this is Rasa Krida. Krishna was only 10 years of age when he was in Vrindavan, and hence there is no question of hereditism. On this issue, Sage Sukha replies to Parikshit, the one who is the indweller of all the gopis and their husbands and all other beings, and is the witness self, is now playing in physical form. Krishna was loved by young women and young girls alike, as though he was in their age group, all due to his Maya. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation on child Krishna, the incarnation of the Supreme Lord. I would like to thank Swamiji and Sri Vishnu Mohan Foundation for giving me an opportunity to take part in this seminar. Sri Balakrishnam Adhikritya Vaktum Kinchit Avakasam Anugrihitavate Swami Hariprasad Mahodaya Evam Strotrganaya Cha Mama Dhanyavadan Samarpya Aham Mama Bhashanam Samapayami. Namaste. Sri Krishnarpanamastu. Yogindranam Tadangeshu Adhikasu Maduram Muktibadam Nivaso Bhaktanam Kamavasdutar Krilayam Natate Padamulam Nityam Chittachitam Me Pavanaparapade Krishna Karanya Sindho Kritva Nisheshatapan Pradishatu Paramananda Sandhava Lakshmi. Thank you.